Hello and welcome back to Whimsical Farm. Today's video is going to be about container gardening, and we're going to go into a lot of details on how we do this. We learned a lot of good information from Mr. Leon Sloan from Oklahoma, and he's the one that kind of got this started in a big way. But we want to go into some details. We did this one time and we had a lot of failure. And then we overcame that failure and found out why. So we'll talk about that a little bit. The first thing I want to go over is the type of soil that you want to use in these containers. So if you would, go ahead and shine down here. This is our bucket that we're going to use. This is a mineral bucket. You can go to any place that has a farm supply that has these mineral buckets, and all it is it's either molasses or a salt or something that they use for cattle, but they'll have lots of these buckets. Maybe a farmer in your area. You shouldn't have to give a lot of money for these. These are generally run about $3 or $4, and some people will give them to you. So you want to look for them free, of course, if you can. But the soil that you put in these, it can't be soil from your garden. You can't just grab garden dirt because it'll be way, way too dense. You can't use straight peat moss. So what we did was we took, and this will be a very good test for you before you get started on this, is you want to get a clear solo cup and blend together 3 different components and see how they react with drainage. What we did is we used just a bean seed, put 1 bean seed in each one of the cups, and we tried different types of soils, all different combinations, and we found the one that worked the very best for us. So if you'll hold on just a second, I'm going to have to get a little puck out of this equation. Okay, buddy. Okay, there we go. All right, that's a little bit better. We had one little pup that decided he wanted to get out and play with the rest of the family. So what I was saying is you need to make sure that the water goes into the soil holds the water, but then it also needs to drain properly. So it's kind of a catch-22. You need the soil loose enough to let the water go through, but it has to be spongy enough to hold the water, because let's face it, plants don't drink dirt. They don't drink gravel. They have to only drink a solution of water and all the good stuff blended into it. So what we found out for us that worked the best, we have 3 parts to our soil. We bought a super soil here locally, and you can get that at almost any good quality nursery, usually built up around gardening, but you need a good super soil. It should be a silty type of soil, should be a high density soil, it should have some sand, it should be composted, it should be ground up real fine, and that soil is great. It'll have a lot of minerals, a lot of nutrients, but it'll be way too dense to use that straight. If you fill this container with super soil, it's not going to drain. So 1/3 of ours is super soil. 1/3 of it we use Stay Green from Walmart or from Home Depot. And Stay Green is, it's not a true potting soil, it's more of a garden amendment soil for garden beds. It says right on the bag, not for containers. So if you fill your container with that, the water's gonna drain through too quick. And so that's our second one, is the Stay Green. And in our case, we got tired of paying $6, $7 a bag, so we just take wood chips that the electric company gives us, and we compost those down, and that acts as our Stay Green. So, in the last component, you need something that will really hold the moisture good, and in that case, we use peat moss. It's a little bit expensive, but there is no substitute for peat moss. Anytime you buy a high quality potting soil, a good percentage of it will be peat moss. So buy a bale of peat moss. Usually you can find it in any of your box stores, Tractor Supply, Home Depot's got it, and you got to have it. So let's review the 3. You need some kind of a good super soil that's got all your nutrients. You need something that's a very fine composted chipped wood that's highly organic. And then your last thing that you need of the big three will be your peat moss. So you blend those together, and if you look over here, you'll see we've got that blend. And I've always been intrigued by this. When they say 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, it never comes out to 100%, because you've got 33.3, I'm being a little bit of a nerd here, 33.3 and 33.3 and 33.3, and you end up with 99.9. So somewhere you lost a little bit. So here's how we make it up. We make up the last little bit. This is my secret weapon, and like I said, we did this in clear solo cups with a hole poked in the bottom, and got to watch it over 2 weeks of time, and we got to watch how a green bean liked that water, and we got to see which one germinated fastest, which one grew good, which one got leggy, which one had nutrients. Some of them didn't do anything. Some of them popped up and then they died. So, but this is our secret weapon. This is about a gallon container. You notice I'm doing a reuse of a knockout rose bucket. But this you can buy, again, at Tractor Supply or Walmart. This is bedding that you put in your puppy beds or for your rabbits, and it's just cedar chips. This will keep the soil very loose. It will absorb some water, but it will let it drain out over time, and it'll kind of act as a stabilizer. It's just a very good thing to add in. So we will have that added into the soil. I'm gonna go ahead and just put this over here. We'll add it a little bit at a time as we go. So the next thing that you need to know about the mineral bucket is the mineral bucket. A lot of people might make a mistake on this. If you're used to Grandma's pots that she has for flowers, a lot of them will have holes right in the bottom. You don't want to do that. We want to use this bucket as a reservoir to hold water. So make sure that when you get these buckets, they have watertight integrity. Make sure there's no holes in the bottom, because we're going to blow a hole in the side of the bucket. And we've got these are 6-inch French drain pipes. You cut a couple of these 14-inch, and you're going to drop those in, and that's going to kind of hold everything up. It's going to make sure that you've got a place for water to sit and a reservoir for water, and it will act as a place for water to be stored. And then the material we're going to put in there, this material here is a landscape fabric. It'll act as a wick, just like you'd have a wick in an oil lamp, but in this case we're going to be wicking moisture up to our soil. So the first thing that we'd have to do is blow a hole in this, and you want to do it at 5 inches. So you get you a marker like this, and that's where your hole would go. And you always want to make sure your hole is lined up this way. So I'll show you how these are. Your hole needs to be in line with them this way. So it can be on this end or this end. You're only going to put one hole. So you measure it 5 inches. And there's your 5-inch measurement. And you can make a hole real quick with one of these, but it's too loud for the house, and then also it's going to make 2 holes. So if you do that way, it's still going to be very loud in the house. So not really the best tool for the job, and the cost of ammo is just so high, it's ridiculous. So that's our high-speed hole maker. You can use that at your farm out in the yard, but I'm a little lazy today, and I wanted to enjoy the air conditioning in the house while we shot this video. So we're going to use the old DeWalt. I got a Christmas tree style bit. You can use a flat bit. You can use just a regular 1/2-inch wood bit. The hole diameter needs to be about 1/2. It could be a 3/4. It could be 1 inch. You don't want to get too small, because something is going to flow and hit that hole and stop you up. So there's a quick guide for 5 inches. Drop that down right there. This is just a starting point, so get it started. Then once you get it started, get your bit out, get your little marker spacer out of the way. And I'm gonna have to get down there where I can put a little body English on it. All right, so there's your hole. you can see that. So the water is going to fill, you're going to fill this up with water, and it's going to go all the way up to the bottom edge of that hole. And some people will tell you, you know, that it may last 2 weeks. Your mileage may vary. So we want to keep it full of water pretty much all the time. Now, sometimes you go on vacation, you're gone for 2 or 3 days. You know, your wicking material will save your butt on that. So that's the whole purpose. One of the whole purpose of having it is give you a little bit of leeway on the dry days. So let's go to the next step. Glad we didn't shoot the 44 in the house today. I think it'd just be too loud. So just use the old DeWalt. So now again, let's review. You look inside there, you'll see the hole here. It's lined up with these holes. And the next step is we want to put in our fabric. Now, I'm going to suggest to you when you get this fabric, find somebody that's got some of this left over from a big job where they did their whole yard, or just the oil field uses this. Sometimes they have some leftover scrap. They're going to throw it away, whatever. This is 3 feet by 4 feet. So you want to take your long measurement, your 4-foot measurement, and line that up this way. Because what you're going to do is push that down so that it fills in the gaps on either side of that pipe. And you want to take it all the way down to water level, which would be the bottom of the bucket. So get it all the way down there. Get it as flat as you can. Don't worry about the ragged edges. That means absolutely nothing right now. And we'll deal with that here in a minute. So you can see how it went down. This does not have to come up all the way to the edge. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're just trying to get it to wick a majority of the soil. So the next step is go ahead and put some dirt in here. I got this laid out where we can fill it pretty easy. And try to keep all your dirt inside your material. You don't want it on the outside. There's one. And we got 2 of them. I'm gonna have to refill these. That's a good start. Let me refill 2 more real quick. I'm gonna sprinkle a few chips in there. Some of the cedar chips. All right. These mineral tubs, they hold about 25, 26 gallons. And you could have those cedar chips blended in, you know, before you start. But I did that just so you can see one of our, I call it a secret weapon. It pretty much is. I'm a little off on that, so I make a small adjustment. Nobody gets fired. Nobody loses their cool. I have learned after 60 years of life, if you have to have things perfect to be able to be happy, you're going to be working awful hard to be happy. So I've learned to run down the middle of the road. Try to do as good as you can, but be happy with very good. You don't have to have perfection, especially on something as simple as this. It's a bucket. It's a bucket of dirt. It's got a piece of landscape fabric in there. Geotech is the fancy name for it. There's another thing of dirt. Now see, if I had a whole bunch of assistants in here making this video, I could have them handing me dirt, but we're not doing it that way. We don't have to have that. My lovely assistant today is my sweet wife, and she is the camera lady today. Doing a fantastic job. She's a big help. She has a dream of having a whimsical garden and a whimsical farm, and she has told me recently that she now has it. So I'm glad about that. Glad I could help her do that. Now, at some point, you need a place to be able to fill this. And again, remember where we drilled our hole. Let's turn him around here. There's our hole right there. That hole becomes your index for where your fill pipe goes. So you cut you a piece of PVC. You can take an 8-foot piece and cut it into 4 pieces, end up with 4 24s, 4 2-footers. I cut mine a little bit shorter than that. You can cut angle and keep angles on both ends. But anyway, you get the point. This is a 21 because I like them a little shorter. You sleeve this down. Let me see if I can show some more details here for the film. You sleeve this down between the material, keep it on the outside of the material, and go all the way down until you hit the bottom. And that 45 makes it where it doesn't stop up when you're hitting it with the garden hose. So now we got him tucked in there where he goes. I didn't have to fight him the whole time I'm building the bucket. I used my dirt, made it work for me. Let's add a secret weapon in here. This is my secret weapon. Now you look right there. That is not, that's not Cocoa Puffs. You don't eat that. Don't add no milk to it. That is rabbit poo, rabbit manure. I call it Cocoa Puffs. But I mean, it's just, if you let it sit in the sunshine a little bit, that's just as dry as it can be. There's no smell. All it smells like just smells like grass. You'll see a little bit of leftover rabbit food in there. But I put a container right underneath their hutch, and that's what it looks like. And it's great. This is a little bit more nitrogen than chicken manure, but it's not hot. It's ready to use right now. The day you pick it up, you can use it. So we'll put a little bit of that in there at that layer. And that's an excellent fertilizer. That gives you your 333 plus also some minerals. So there's a dose of that. Let's put a little more dirt in here. There's some more dirt. And let's put some more chips in there, get them spread out. See, that's really looking limber now. I've almost used up all my chips. I got a few left. But we can get, now we got rabbit manure. We've got our triple soil that we built. Remember the components in the soil. You want a good super soil. You want, that'll be 1/3 of super soil. 1/3 will be a good quality organic material, fine chipped wood. Stay green works good. And your third component you're going to use is your peat moss. So that's your 3. That makes up a 99.99. And then you finish off with your chips. And we're going to put a few more chips. Now, we're getting close. We still need a little bit more. I want to come all the way up. So we're going to use 2 more containers. This is the beauty of working in the air-conditioned house. I don't know if your house is set up, if your wife will let you bring a wheelbarrow right into the front room. But I'm very fortunate, and the Lord blessed me with the kind of wife that lets me do that and get away with it. She loves it, and I love it. We love the same thing. Now, let's talk about this edge, because we're getting ready. We're getting close to being finished out here. Get a little dirt on the floor. We'll sweep that up. Now, see these edges? Some people freak out over these edges because, oh my gosh, that's ugly. All you have to do, put a little fold on it, push the dirt into it to hold it, and just tell it to shut up, and there it is. See this one? He's almost there. We'll help him out a little bit. Little fold, a little dirt, and now, see, he's good. He's good. He's good. Everybody's good. Pipe's good. It's good and tight, and we're getting somewhere. What else do we need? Well, how about some more fertilizer? Those tomato plants are going to eat every day. Now, Sustain is a good product. Mr. Leon talks about using Sustain. You can buy that off of Amazon. It's a very good product. And I'm not going to tell you which fertilizer to use because I don't know what you're planting. These containers, you can plant climbing beans. You could plant lettuce. You could have broccoli. You could have 1 plant of squash in the middle, and of course the leaves going to get so big it'll take up your whole container. You can put a tomato plant and go vertically integrated with a good cattle panel, or some people, Grandpa used to always use concrete reinforcing wire. That's excellent. You can put it right down inside here, drill a few holes, put a couple of tire wraps, good heavy tire wraps, and cinch them down, and you've got yourself a nice portable container. I will tell you this point. Make sure you don't put water in this thing until you get it moved. It's heavy enough with the dirt. So now you can see we've got 3 different types of soil combined to make an excellent potting soil that will hold water good, it will drain good, it has tons of nutrients and trace elements, lots of organic, and I want to add another secret weapon that I haven't even talked about to anybody. When you put this together, you go out in your yard, wherever you got your big pile of chips that have broke down into compost, you dig those up, make sure that you get some large worms, red worms and night crawlers, put them in here too. Even if it's water in the bottom, they'll know what to do. If they want to swim, they can swim. If they want to stay up in the dry, they'll go wherever, and they will multiply and they'll work through there. Remember, when a worm burrows through and he goes through there, he's going to leave a hole behind where water can travel, and he's going to leave little drops of manure, of worm manure, castings, and that's an excellent fertilizer for your plants. They sell that. I wouldn't even imagine buying worm poop, but they do sell it. So what's the next step? Well, let's plant 2 tomato plants, and we'll talk about these a little bit too. This is something that I learned this year. When you have your tomato plants and they're real small and you're looking for just the right container to put them in, these containers come from the dollar store, and if you notice, they have the vertical ribs. This is not a regular solo cut. The dollar store has these, and the reason I really love these is you have a tendency with a tomato plant. Look how strong that thing is. That thing's like a little oak tree. My wife grew this, she planted it and took care of it. We'll say the Lord grew it, but she cared for it, and that thing is tough. All these little fibers all down that would love to turn into roots. All they have to have is some moist soil and they will make roots. But watch this when I pull it out. Now, if this is a regular solo cut, slick round sides, the roots would go round and round and round and just literally choke the plant to death. But because of these ribs that have been integrated into this design, it makes it where I'm gonna have to turn that thing over. Give them a little tap, you're gonna give birth. Look how it makes all of the roots stay in those outer ribs. So that one's, you could say it's root bound, but it's going to go. Now, I'm not going to tear at them. Some people want to cut and tear. We're not going to do none of that. So what we're going to do is we'll figure out which angle. She wants this to be on the outboard side where she can water it. So would that put that right, dear? Okay. So that would put the plant there. Now watch this. We want that plant to go there. We're going to go deep. We're going to go down to China, see if we can find a guy with a pointed hat. Yeah, there's the hat right there. As deep as you can go. Maybe just a little bit deeper. And drop that down in there. And make sure that neck, see this neck? Don't worry about that. You would never plant a tree this deep. You always keep them exactly level. Whatever the level of the bucket is, you want that to be level here or ground. But with tomatoes, go deep. Deeper you go, the better you'll be. We could even go deeper, but I'm going to run into the pipes if I keep going. So there's that. He's planted. Compress them down good. Make sure, look at that thing is getting ready to grow tomatoes. I mean, that thing has a tomato on it. Look at that. Look at that little baby right there. There's a tomato right there. That'll be ready to put on a tomato sandwich here in about 3 days with all this super soil. Now I'm going to turn this one around. Notice I can still work it easy because it's not full of water yet. You get it full of water, that thing gets bad heavy. Now, you don't have to put the ropes on there. I've added these because me and her are doing a video, and when we get ready to walk this outside, it'd be a lot easier for 2 people to grab those ropes. I'm going to go a little deeper on this one. See if we can get him to give birth, get him out of here. Whack, he came out easy. That was a little bit better. Again, these are from the dollar store, and it's just their brand. I can't remember what they call them, but dollar store. Family Dollar, all right? So that one went down a hole a little deeper. We don't want to go quite that deep because his limb's going to touch, and he could get some disease. So we'll keep him up out of there. And these lower limbs, she'll probably trim them off. I'll take these 2 little ones off. We'll leave this limb here for her to, if she wants to pull it, okay? So around and around she goes. Get that all filled in good. Then compress. Don't hurt the roots, but compress. then fill in a little bit more. Now, the last step on this, I'm going to say the last, probably have about 6 or 7 more, but the last main step that I would do is, this is a rule that I learned years ago from some master gardeners. You never want to leave your soil, you're looking at soil here, you never want to leave that exposed to the elements. That's called a naked garden bed or a naked container, naked ground. You don't ever want to do that. So what do you put over it? Well, when that electric company came out and cut all those trees for us, they left behind this stuff right here. They ran it through a chipper shredder, and this is trees with their green and with their brown, but these have the ability to hold that moisture in even more. So now you're not naked, you have a covering. It is okay. We're finishing up this container here by making sure that the soil is not naked. It is covered. These are wood chips. We were talking about these buckets right here, and the last thing we did was make sure they weren't naked. You'll see that this has got the ground cover that I told you about, the wooden chips, and this was in the living room the last time you saw it. So now it has graduated out to the yard. It's got a lot of wind and sun and rain. So today we're going to do some surgery. I'm going to show you a tool. I know my wife showed it last time, but this little tool right here is made by Fisker. You can zoom in just a little bit if you would. And it's a very handy tool. It's got a little clip that holds it like that, kind of protects it. That does come apart easy. If you need to, you can pull it apart. But very, very good for precise work. You can sanitize these with a 10-to-1 bleach and water solution or a little rubbing alcohol and just keep them wiped down. So I'm going to do pretty radical cuts on these 2 little plants. My wife has these. We are in the girl section of tomatoes, and this is the Napa Chardonnay. She said it's kind of got a bum rap a little bit, so she wants to prove that it's a good tomato plant. So follow with me, get a little bit closer, come on in here and have a look at this, and we're going to make these plants a lot more sanitary. The first one we're going to do is this one. He's got a few spots, and we're going to take him off really close to his main trunk. He has a little bitty sucker right there. You can pull it off by hand, a little one here. You'll notice the water system. Let's get all these limbs trimmed, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. On this one, watch closely. You'll see I'm going to take the limb and a sucker at the same time. I'm going to get close to the trunk without damaging it. That's where your precision cutters come in. They do an excellent job. We're going to get rid of this. He's touching the ground, and we're just going to do half on him to give him a little breathing space. And then let's see what else we got. We have a small sucker right here. These, when they're that small, it's you can do it with the cutters, but it's better just to use your fingers because it's so small it's hard to get the cutters in there. Everything else is looking pretty good. We've got one limb over here touching the ground. I'm going to go ahead and get him out of the picture. We don't want ground contact with the tomatoes leaves because they're just prone to always getting something wrong with them. Some spots of some sort. This one's got a little bit of spot. Not really disease. It's just, well, that could be. But anyway, it's gone now. And so you wanted to talk about this pot a little bit. This is very important. On these pots, the first time that we got introduced to them, we had it in our mind from watching Mr. Leon do these that he would fill this chute right here with water, and the bottom was supposed to hold 10 or 12 gallons of water, and then the wicking material would pull it up and keep this top moist. What we found is in the hot summers of Arkansas weather here, you can't keep that wet enough. So we put in this sprinkler system. I wanted to show you this. This is something you can find on Amazon. If you'll go to our section on comments or questions and fire me a question or a comment about this, I can look it up where we got these, but it's on Amazon. The thing I like about these is it has a very sharp tip on the back side. You can use that as a tool to puncture your main trunk line. It also has built into it, now this one's been pulled off, but built right into it is the double barb fitting, one that barbs into the main and the other one that barbs into this is designed for it. These, you can turn them down pretty low, and you can see I could use that just as a drip water, sit it up there on the rack. Don't even have it in the ground, and you could watch that. See how precise that is? And you could just do one plant. She has chosen to have 2 plants, so we can stab it in the ground. It has a little rubber O-ring or insert in it, and as you dial it, let me get my hands out of the way. As you dial it, you can determine how much water you want. Now, we want the root system over there to get some water, and over here. So here's our target right here where my finger is, and target right here. So we'll go ahead and open the throttle up on it just by turning it. And it has clicks, it's tactile. You can feel the clicks when you turn it. Now, you don't want to get too much because you'll be wasting water. See, that's going out of the bucket. So just enough to get kind of close to your tomato plant, and that's good enough. It doesn't have to hit it exact. It's gonna, as that water drains down through the bucket, it'll have a profile to it. The more of these chips you have, the more that profile will increase. Underneath the water, if that gets hit, then it'll drag that and it'll make it where you got water everywhere. Now, the next thing to look at, if you'll shine right here, remember we debated on blowing a hole in here with a 44 Magnum, but we decided because of the cost of ammo and being too loud in the house, we didn't do that. I drilled a hole. It's about 1/2 inch diameter, and when you see water overflowing, there's no reason to run really anymore. So we'll shut that off here in a minute, but be advised, all your fertilizer, like these rabbit pellets, all that stuff, it's going to break down and you get good nitrogen out of them, but you don't want to waste it. So what I did on my big bucket, so we'll look at that later on a different video, is right below the hole, about 2 inches out from the bucket, I planted cantaloupe. So we'll let that cantaloupe grow up. My holes are facing a little bit different, but we'll let a strand of cantaloupe go up this cattle panel, and then I'll set shelves on here to try to catch at least 2 cantaloupes per plant. That's the goal. So even though you're losing some water, it seems like it's getting away from you, and some nutrients, your nitrogen and things like that, do get away. They leach out. You have to keep putting them back. So always add some rabbit manure or the fertilizer of your choice. Blood meal's good, bone meal's good. And that concludes our video for the containers. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to shoot us a text or a comment. And we want to thank you again for being here with us at Whimsical Farm. And I hope the video is instructive and you enjoy it. And get you some of these buckets. It's definitely a way to go on tomato plants and other plants you can use too. So thanks again, and we're going to make another full-length video of our garden. So thank you, and bye-bye.